Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lost in Translation show. I'm Simone, your host. On my channel, we generally explore history to help mankind understand what's happening today. But for the next few shows, we will divert from our regular topics of the financial system and political history to enjoy some lighter topics like football. I will still be posting my regular content, so please like, share, and subscribe. So today I have a very special guest and a dear friend, former Pittsburgh Steeler place kicker Roy Gerela. Roy spent 11 seasons in the NFL playing for Houston, Pittsburgh, and San Diego. He's most famous for his time with the Steelers, playing in 3 Super Bowl championships and winning 7 divisional titles. He was a coach for his alumni, New Mexico State. As an Aggie kicker and tight end coach, he is credited with guiding players like punter Brad Evans. Evans finished 3rd in his conference in yards per punt with 41.8, ranking him 6th all-time in his punting average in a single season, beating his fellow Aggie Andy Coles in his 1999 punting record. He recently attended the 50-year Super Bowl Steeler celebration in Pittsburgh, and we hope to have an update on that event. Roy has an interesting life story. He grew up in Canada in a family of 10, and he has lived the American dream. As a child, he was number 10 in his family, and so his team jersey is also number 10. 2 of his brothers, Ted Gerela, played on the CFL as a soccer-style kicker, running back, linebacker as well. His other brother, Metro Gerela, played professional soccer in the Pacific League and coached youth soccer. He was also a scout and coach for the Vancouver Whitecaps Soccer League. Roy's years of dedication to his sport and his experience in coaching has helped many people reach their true potential, both on and off the field. As a coach, Roy believed the best way to improve your skills was to focus on your weaknesses to overcome your boundaries. The skill of helping others reach their true potential is his life legacy. I'm grateful to call him a friend. And so without further ado, welcome, Roy.
Thank you, Simone. Pleasure to be with you.
Oh, it's so nice to have you. I think we were just chatting and figured out that we'd been friends for almost 40 years. So it's great to have you as a friend, and I'm glad that you agreed to join us today. I know that a lot of my viewers are excited about hearing about your career and possibly some motivational advice as we kind of head into the new year.
Sure, it's always a pleasure to give through my experiences, what I went through and how I got through tough times and rose to the top, to share my experiences with other people, whether they're kids or young people or parents and older people. And it's always great to talk to them.
So first of all, before we get started, some of my viewers may not be familiar with your whole career. So why don't you just share a little bit about your background with us, and maybe some insight in how the game has changed since you were a player.
Okay, I finished my high school in Honolulu, Hawaii. From there, I got a football scholarship to New Mexico State, where I played football as a starting defensive back, punter, and also halfway through my junior year is when I started kicking the football soccer style. And the coaches there never saw such a way of kicking before. And so my sister and brother-in-law, who I lived with over in Honolulu, they were being transferred to New Jersey. And they asked me if I wanted to go with them on the trip through Asia, Europe, and back to New Jersey with them, all expenses paid, of course. Um, and it'd be a trip of my life. And I turned them down 3 times because I told them that I wanted to stay here in Las Cruces, New Mexico in the summertime so that I can work on my kicking and punting, because my assistant coach, who was Freddie Glick, who was a former Houston Oiler, said that I want you out here every day before practice and after practice for about 10, 15 minutes to work on your kicking, which I did. But again, that summer, I spent the whole summer um, after my junior year to practice my kicking off the ground, and which I did. And so I came back my senior year and got drafted by Houston in the fourth round, the first player drafted off the football team, which really shocked me and the whole community because
That's
people came up to
exciting.
me and says, you know what? He says, you'll never make it. And I said, well, you know, I may not make it, but you know what? I says, whether I do or not, it's going to be up to me. What I put into it from here on out, it's going to be solely up to me. So I developed a blueprint for success on my behalf. Nobody was around to help me at all. There had to be a reason why the ball went right or left or line drive. So I took that into study and worked on it every day in the summertime. And come my junior year, I had a chance to kick maybe about 4 or 5 field goals and kicked off everything out of the end zone, which people never saw before. And also punted and played defensive back. And so Freddie Glick, who was my backfield coach, was playing in the University of New Mexico. Uh, he brought the Houston Oilers scouts up to Albuquerque because we were playing the New Mexico Lobos at that time, and they were there watching me. So that game, I kicked everything out of the end zone. I kicked a field goal. I intercepted a pass. I punted for about 42 yards of punt, and they drafted me in the fourth round. And so, other than that, then Otto Graham, the college all-star team was being formed, and they selected me as the kicker for the college all-star team. That was back in 1969. And I was shocked because I got this letter from Otto Graham, who was, of course, the big-time quarterback for the Washington Redskins. And he was coaching the college all-stars. And uh, got this letter saying, congratulations, you're nominated as the place kicker for our college all-star team in Chicago against the New York Jets and Joe Namath. I said, oh my God, as things happen so quick. And then being drafted and all of a sudden college all-star game, I'm still having trouble kicking off the ground. So I really had to work my butt off just to, in the next few months, just to be performing at that highest level. And so after that game, I went down to Houston, and my first couple of years, I broke all of George Blanda's records, and the rest is history. I kept on. I arrived somehow and worked hard and developed that blueprint for myself uh, because I knew I was way behind on schedule for being an NFL kicker, but somehow I survived by working hard all the time and put my nose to the grindstone, and I became very successful.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the difference of being a soccer style kicker? And did you learn that at the Hawaiian high school, or was that something you came up on your own? Because I noticed that your brothers both kick in that style also.
Yes, we all played. When I was a youngster, when I was in elementary school, I played on the elementary school soccer team, and so did my brothers. And junior high school the same way. And then when I came here to the United States to finish my high school, starting in the ninth grade, they never had soccer. They started to do it in PE program, and I had all the skills, and I knew how to kick with both feet very well, and dribble the ball and stop and turn and so forth. And nobody else had a clue. And so several times PE teacher asked me to do some drills just to help out. And so that's where I got that the soccer style kicking from is my background as a former soccer player when I was a kid.
All right. Well, I know that the game has changed quite a bit. You and I were laughing about you just had gone to the new Pittsburgh complex and they've got a gym and a health club and a restaurant. And we were laughing about the gyms that you and a lot of other athletes, my age group and under, you guys worked out in these like cement, smelly gyms. You didn't have all the right equipment. So football's really changed a lot, not just in, the pay of the players and the dynamic of the teams, but also they've instilled a lot of new rules for protection of the players. So it seems when I'm talking to people who are non-players, they're like, oh, well, when you sign up in the military, you might die or something like this. I'm like, well, people are playing a game. They may not want to have a lifelong spinal injury. So I'd like a little insight from actual player and coach, and from a person who's known people who've struggled with their football injuries and sometimes it ended their career. What do you think about these new rules?
Well, these rules are good, but they're being drawn out of context a little bit. Nowadays, what's happening is that these football helmet companies like Rydell and Wilson. When I went to Pittsburgh a few weeks ago for that anniversary weekend, we toured the Pittsburgh Steeler locker room and training room and in their restaurant with all the chefs and everything. And we're going through the locker room and we're looking at the helmets. We couldn't touch them, of course, but our guide says that goes in a group and says, he said, these helmets are individually fit for each individual person using that one helmet. In the old days, when the person lost a chin strap or whatever, they would toss a helmet and somebody else would toss a helmet so they can wear it. That's no more. And what the helmet companies have done is that they come in to each NFL team and they measure each individual's player's head because everybody's head is different size, shape, and so forth. And so they are fitted for the inside part of the helmet. So you have a protection device around your head that fits only you. And so when you put that in the helmet, it's much more protective than anything that they have done in the past. And every year they measure how much velocity it takes to really have a player receive a concussion, because today you don't really hear too many concussions. Years back, and they were almost every game. And everybody said, back when I played, we still had these web style helmets on the inside that looked like construction webs on the inside. Anybody can wear it. If you wear 7 1/4 or whatever, that so he wears the same size, but it doesn't actually fit for either one. And so they've become so specialized in the fitting of the helmet, reduce the concussions, and they've also changed the rules on the kickoff and punts by developing a kicking ball that they use today just for kicking. Quarterback cannot pick up the kicking ball and throw it like they can in the quarterback ball. And that is a ball that the players kick with all during the week. And they get 14 balls every week. And what happens is that the equipment manager, he puts a leather softening device lotion on the ball to make it soft. Then he takes a steel brush to brush off all the pebbles. When that's all done, you don't have any more pebbles on the ball. You just have an imprint that looks like there's pebbles on it. And then they use a couple coats of different leather softener lotion that they put on the ball, rub it down, rub it in real hard. Okay, so it looks like a greased ball. And then they put it in a dryer. and then they pump it up to about 18 pounds. Ball, it should be about 13 pounds, but they pump it up a little higher, about 13, 18, 20 pounds to make the ball fat. And then they put it in the dryer for about 20 minutes, whatever, how long it takes to dry it. And so when it comes out, it's like a rugby ball. It's that big in the middle. So now the sweet spot, it has enlarged tremendously. And that ball now is made to kick to the moon to avoid concussions. And that's the biggest part. Now punters are kicking the ball 65, 70 yards. I just watched a game last week against Pittsburgh, kicking the ball 70 yards in the air. And also during the games now, when teams kick off, when the kicker tees up the kicking ball is like a reddish ball. The quarterback ball is like a deep brown color ball. There's different colors. Not only that, but when a team kicks off, there's a guy, a ball boy that just handles the kicking ball. He's got a navy blue vest with a orange K on the vest saying that these are of the kicking balls. He's in charge of all the kicking balls. So he changes sidelines depending on who's got the ball. But and then on the sideline where the team is on offense, there's a guy over there with a navy blue vest with a large orange X on the vest. And he has all the quarterback balls. The quarterback balls are balls just out of the box. They pump it up to 13 pounds and you play with it. They don't mess with the texture of it. So, and even today, a lot of people are unaware of that one aspect. They figure, well, hey, these kickers have just tremendously gotten better.
Right.
But that's not necessarily true. I
Okay.
can go back there because when I played, I used to get these kicking balls out of the ball kicking bag, and these balls would sail. It only took me 2.5, 3 steps at the most to kick off, and I can put it 9 yards deep in the end zone with good height. And so it's the evolution of the ball, not the evolution of the player. And I tell people about this all the time, and they're amazed because now they rush to watch the NFL game, paying attention to the guy with the K on the vest and the guy with the X on the vest. And now their perception changes of that player kicking or punting.
Okay, very interesting. That's a great insight. I'm sure my viewers are going to be pretty interested in that too. That's something you could only get from somebody who's been inside the game.
Not only that, but also what happened is that Sports Illustrated about 4 years ago, and I got the copy of it somewhere. Uh, they devoted about 4 pages to how the kicking ball is made, and I got a copy of it, and I was amazed. And now I understand why these guys can kick that far. Now 55, 60-yard field goals is nothing.
Could you elaborate a little more on the Steelers reunion for the 50-year Super Bowl? What players were there? Was there any special tribute to some of the players that may have passed on? Was there anything interesting you might want to share with us?
Well, when before this reunion, we had a special celebration for Franco's retirement jersey, and that was um, different setting altogether. And I can remember I woke up in the morning before I caught the airplane and getting dressed at home and turn on the TV, and it just says Franco Harris passed away.
Very sad.
And it kind of broke everybody's heart.
I can imagine.
And I called the Steelers to see if they're still going to go on, and they said yes. So I caught the airplane and went, and it was a pretty sad affair and
Was it?
so shocking. Franco's a great guy, great player, great heart, great mind, and a gentleman. But he gets on the field, he just turns it on. He plays the game fair and tough and hard, and always a gentleman, always a great guy to talk to. But this reunion that I went to a few weeks ago, um, it was always nice to see the players that we shared that first Super Bowl with, 1974, against the Vikings. And we spend a week down there, and you get into a big auditorium and sign autographs and talk to the press from all over the world. And they ask you all kinds of crazy questions and so forth. But seeing all the players at this anniversary weekend, to see now that we've all aged, some players, won't mention any names, but one player came down, the big lineman that we had, 6'4", 6'5", great player from California, uh, great gentleman, great family man. He came down with Parkinson's disease, and he lives in a wheelchair and pushing it, and what we did was that we rallied around him and helped him get on and off the bus and up the stairs and so forth. And his wife was there also, but we have to help her as well. She was fine, but she can't really bust around a 6'5", 275-pound player.
Of
And
course, yeah.
you know,
Well,
but
yeah, it must have been awesome
and
to see your friends, but also
yeah,
a little sad to see what age does to some of us. But it's amazing that he still got to come and
yeah, well, yeah,
got to
he's
connect and be there for each other and support each other even after the games and the fame is over.
right, and that's the kind of camaraderie that we had when we played. We were all one group and we supported each other. And
Hmm.
another man that is stage 4 cancer and another great player, defensive back, and saw him before a couple of years ago, and he was big and strong, and now he's wilted down to something I couldn't recognize. And I was asking his wife, I said, how's he doing? Blah, 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 You ever gone to MD Anderson in Houston, Texas? That's a worldly renowned place for people with cancer. So I gave her that kind of advice to see what she would say. She was all for it. I said, make a call up there, see if you can get in there. But these guys uh, have slowed down a lot, but they become nice, a little nicer.
When our ego and our health and
Yeah,
all man, we were able to
now they're
develop
going to
into
bed
better
7, 8
people.
o'clock at night. But we had some good times. We talked about the past and the future, what you're doing now, blah blah, and what you did, and share all kinds of stories. And also, we toured the Steeler Museum and how the Steelers first started, all the way up until not to what it is now. Big difference. Also, they had a movie theater in there where we can watch highlights of any game or any highlights of any game that we want to see. And so when we were there for the 74 celebration of the first Super Bowl, they put on the highlights of that Super Bowl that we played and highlights of the uh, playoff games that we played to get there. And it was tremendous. Also, Coach Noah had a big cutout, and from afar, it looked like exactly like him. And everybody says, "Wow!" Everybody kind of backed off, and "Wow, this is." He looks like he's still alive. you
Oh, that's
know.
what I was going to say. He was a coach, so I'm assuming he was a bit older, so he may not be with
Yeah, he
us
passed
anymore.
away, and but all these videos and pictures and cutouts and team pictures, and also their the Steeler facility had a beautiful restaurant there with their own chefs and they cooked the right foods and no cokes or sweet stuff and all that kind of stuff. And their weight room probably it's huge. It's probably at least 2,000 square feet or more, at least more. Any weight, I mean, they had so much weight, it's unreal. And and the guys looked like it too because they all looked buffed and bigger, bigger than our guys that were whenever we played.
Do you
That
remember?
doesn't make them any better.
Do you remember the football movie North Dallas 40 that came out around the time you were a big player?
Yes. Oh, yes.
And that was one of my favorite all-time football movies, I've got to tell you. And I love Nick Nolte in it. But was it reflective of kind of the environment that you guys were in, or was it was it Hollywood glamorized, or was it pretty spot on?
Well, it's kind of spot on in a way, but also there's a little bit of glamorization, of I guess of females and so forth and that kind of thing.
Of
But
course, okay.
yeah, but that's all may have happened during our time, but it was all personal on the outside that nobody talked about. And although I was so quiet in the locker room, I never say anything what I did or who and my personal stuff was just about me that I kept quiet about and never share with anybody, and no reason to. And why talk about somebody and you kind of defaming them, and I'm not like that, and in fact, I'm just the opposite. And so, but there's a lot of stories to tell, of after party, after game party after games, um, with different cultures and
Right.
that kind of thing. And so,
Well, you know what? We touched a little bit on your brothers. Now we're talking a little bit about history. They were both great players. You're from a really close family. I know you loved your brothers. One of them's already gone, passed away a few years back. So did you want to just talk about them a little bit and kind of you come from a major sporting event family, so it'd be great to hear a little bit about them.
yeah, growing up in a Ukrainian family, my parents were from the Ukraine. My father worked in the pulp and paper mill, one of the largest or the largest in the world at that time. And my mother was in charge of the hospital laundry. And my mother spoke broken English. My father spoke Russian, Ukrainian, and Romanian, and perfect English. And he was pretty smart. Uh, uh, so growing up, sports was our outlet because we were not that we were poor, but we didn't have enough money to go around to lift everybody up, So and we recognized that, and we elementary school, I had a paper out with my older brothers, Ted and Metro, 6 o'clock in the morning, and deliver it before school. Made some money I never saw because it all went to my mother, and which is okay. And but growing up was tough. So we're all into sports, Metro, Teddy, and myself, and um, I played ice hockey, played baseball, played soccer, and then my father passed away. And then family kind of broke down and went different directions, and I my family got together and said, Roy, you got to go live with my eldest sister, who was 16 years older than me, who I really didn't really know that well. But she married an IBMer, and he had a great job. He was American, and a lot of U.S. Navy ships used to come into a port in our hometown for the weekend, and that's, I guess, they hooked up then. But anyway, I lived with them and spent uh, 2 years in Rockville, Maryland, and then he got transferred to Honolulu, Hawaii, which was nice, but also I didn't really know that, the holidays over there, white people are not really, they're welcome, but they're not welcome. But I made inroads with the local people playing football, and that's what sports did for me with other cultures. It forced me to uh, be more democratic and sharing and talking to in a positive way to all peoples. Even when I was a kid, I had Indian friends, I had European friends, and uh, I had Chinese friends. So I was more rounded than I didn't care about skin color or whatever. But by when I was playing football in high school, when I went out for the football team, um, my guidance counselor came up to me. He was one of the assistant coaches. He said, "Roy," he said, "I think you should go to Puno." I says, "Why?" I says, "I've met a lot of good friends here, and I don't have no problem." He says, "Well, every month it's going to be a holiday day where you're going to have to fight because they pick on the white people, the guys do." I said, "Wow." I
Oh, is the
said,
private school that like Barack Obama went to in Waikiki, correct?
"Yes, Punho it was." But and I told him, I said, "My parent, I don't want my brother, sister, and brother-in-law, although they may be able to afford it, to pay that kind of money for me just to go to school." This is Colonial High School at that time was uh, a very good public school, and
And
they
that's
had
where
a
you
lot of good friends.
actually met my ex-husband, correct?
Oh yes, your
You went to high
ex-husband.
school with my ex-husband. That's how we all know each
I
other.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was he was he was loose and fancy free, and he was also uh,
Canadian.
Canadian for Vancouver, and great guy and very smart. I don't think he studied that much, then probably didn't have to, but turned out to be a pretty successful person in business. Did a lot of worldly uh, uh, sales with different companies and corporations, plus his own. And
And of course, he got to marry me for 15 years, which is
which was,
one of his
which
greatest accomplishments.
that was his probably the smartest thing he'd done.
That's funny.
And so I don't know why, I don't indulge in, but um, it's always a pleasure seeing him and talking with him and sharing stories with him and drinking with him and all that kind of stuff. He's a fun guy and
He's a
and
fun
uh,
guy. Yeah, he's a fun
and uh,
guy.
always happy, and it's always a pleasure to be around. And you know, towards our friendship, things kind of went a little haywire a little bit, but I still respect the person and always will. And just think about all the great things that he accomplished.
He really did. He was a true genius. I don't even think he finished high school, but he was one of the smartest people I've ever known to this day.
I think
I
he's
spoke
beyond
with
high
him
school.
recently, and he'll probably watch this podcast. So, hi, Jim.
Hi, Jim. How are you
Hi,
doing?
hello.
Yes.
Well, you know what? Why don't we just talk a little bit about Metro and your other brother because they had great careers in the Canadian League. I have a lot of Canadian viewers, so they probably would be interested in a little tidbit about that. We're going to be wrapping up soon, but let's hear about your brother. And then maybe I know that a lot of people are struggling today with unemployment, with inflation, with job changes. I know I recently went through that a few years ago. It's very difficult to change industries. So, after you did give us a little update on your brother, would you mind maybe just giving people out there maybe a little pep talk like you would before people were getting ready for a game? I know that around the holidays, particularly the elections affected people quite dramatically, regardless of what side you were on. And I just feel that, maybe a good coach pep talk might be good for some of the people listening today. So I'll just let you go with that.
Okay, very good. I can do that. My brother Ted was a great athlete. He was beyond his age in athletics, and everything he did in sports just came natural to him. Uh, he was uh, when I left Canada, he had a scholarship to Gonzaga Prep in Spokane, Washington for track and field. And he went there and he started playing football and he nailed it. He became all state his senior year. I mean, he had scholarships to Stanford. He had a straight A student. Uh, Stanford, Washington State, Notre Dame, all these Big Ten schools. And he decided to stay close and went to Washington State because that's where he was well known. Okay. And at that time, he became, started kicking soccer style. And that's when he wrote me a letter. There's no computers at that time, it's all mail. He wrote me a letter, and I was at New Mexico State, and he says, Roy, he says, da da da, he says, how you doing? He says, I want you to go out there and kick this football soccer style. I'm doing it. I've had lots of immediate success with it, and I know that you can do the same. And so I wrote him back, and I says, thank you for the advice. I've been trying it, and I says it's great. I've got to do more work on it, but I know I can do this thing, and I'll see you this summer when I come back to Canada because I had on a student visa. I had to go back to Canada for until the next school session started. And so he became the BC Lions drafted him. He was not interested in playing in the NFL, although he probably could have. And I think the Oakland Raiders one time offered him, and he wouldn't. He wouldn't go. He was playing with the BC Lions. And he was the first soccer style kicker in Canada. And you know what? And I'm sure that caused a lot of people, young kids, to be involved in kicking because in Canada they have a lot of good soccer players playing when they're young. And so the impression that he made throughout Canada about kicking a football soccer style, he changed. There's only three downs in football in Canada. He changed the thinking of the third down because all these teams up there at that time didn't have a decent kicker, not capable of playing on that level. None. He was the first one. But he stepped up and won a lot of games just through field goals alone. And that changed the CFL game on a third down. And so I've always told him that, told his wife that. And he just shrugged his shoulders. He said, well, he says, that's good. And I hope everybody enjoys it. But, to each his own. And so that one summer I was up there staying at his house, and he and I worked out together, and he pinpointed a few things that I should try, should do, so forth, and he helped me a lot, not only emotionally and mentally, and also physically, and how to train for this and how to practice. So I always told him that when I got drafted, uh, I I owe everything to you, you know, and to the hard work and dedication. And I got, and then I was selected to the BC Sports Hall of Fame. And when they called me for the Hall of Fame, for the BC Sports Hall of Fame in Vancouver, I says, "Are you sure you got the right Gerela?" I said, "You sure Ted was a big deal in Canada kicking. I think he should be nominated, not me. I said, it's not about me. I said, it's about him. And what he did for the CFL in Canada and changing the coaches' thinking on how to approach or teach kicking and winning games on field goals. And I says, I haven't done anything in Canada except for me being a Canadian playing in the NFL and 3 Super Bowls. But you know what? That's not a bigger deal because he hit the native people in Canada where I'm from. And he really gave everybody a good thought playing soccer that this is what I can do. And today they have soccer style kickers all through Canada. And then the guy says, no, we want you to be in the BC Sports Hall of Fame. I said, really, I'm not really that interested because I don't want to be above. I'm not above my brother. He was better than me. He could have done what I did.
In Canada, he just loved Canada and wanted to influence people there, or his family was there. What was he just
He's
wasn't
from there.
interested in the NFL.
He didn't want to live in the United States.
I see.
Canada was his home. And he said that many times, I'm coming back to Canada regardless of what. And
It's a beautiful country and there's wonderful people there. I don't blame him.
yes, yeah, I don't blame him either. But when I went to the BC Sports Hall of Fame, I told my brother Ted, I says, I told these guys that you should be up there, not me. I says, I'm kind of embarrassed by the fact that I'm going into this BC Sports Hall of Fame and not you, because to me, it's not right. You're the guy.
They eventually induct him into the Hall of Fame?
Did they?
Yes, eventually. No, they didn't, huh?
No. But what he did was that he had a shoe, his kicking shoe bronzed, and then he mailed it into the BC Sports Hall of Fame. And because when I was there, I saw the shoe and I says, whose shoe is that? I asked the guy. He says, we don't really know because there's no name to it. I said, that's my brother's shoe. I said, I said, I've kicked with him. I know his shoe, and that's what he wore. I says, he's the one that should be here, not me.
What about your brother Metro? I know he was a professional player too.
Yeah, Metro, he was a different cat. He tried everything in life, in sports, and although he had a great job as a longshoreman in Vancouver. And since Ted and I were kicking soccer style, he decided to give it a shot, and he did pretty good. He somehow on his own he got it into Green Bay training camp.
Bay Packers?
Yeah,
Wow.
because of probably my name, I don't know, and Ted's name, whatever. And so they brought him in, and he hung in there for quite a while. And Forrest Gregg said that he outkicked everybody, any kicker that was there. But number one, the pay wasn't that good. He said I could make more money along shoreman. And also he said, he said, but Lombardi was a head coach, and he knew that Lombardi would not allow a soccer style kicker to come on in and kick for his team. Lombardi didn't trust soccer style kicker. How can you stand over here? The ball's over there, the goalposts are way over here. There's 3 different angles you have to tune into to kick the ball over there. Whereas a straight on kicker, he's just straight on where you want the ball to go in the straight line, just toe punch it that direction. But Metro proved them wrong. And so when it came down to cutting time, they cut him and kept the lineman that was the kicker. At that time, the linemen, because they're big, they thought they can really put some oomph into the ball. and they always trusted them on short little field goals.
Well, it looks like we're getting close to our
And
closing.
then he went to the back to Vancouver. Then he started coaching soccer. Then he became uh, helping the Whitecaps, coaching there with the uh, with the minor team that they had, and also did some scouting for the Whitecaps and did a good job with it. And then he wanted something on a more uh, bigger area that he can cover for them, especially in the coaching. And so he figured, well, I'll go back to longshoring because that's where I can make more money. And I told him, I said, you know what? I said, you made a great choice because football doesn't last long. And you know what? In your job as a supervisor now, I said, you're making well over $100,000 a year. I said, stay with it.
And this was before players made the big numbers that they do today, of course.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we're kind of getting close to wrapping up. I know that you're going to join me again over the next 6 weeks or so. We're going to do another interview that focuses on motivation and positive thinking and overcoming
Okay.
obstacles. Well, we'll talk about, going from being a pro ball player, trying to adjust to new life, and just some of your life experiences to share with the people, because like we were speaking about earlier, a lot of people could really use some words of encouragement today. So if you have something quick to close us off, I did have a few other questions, but I'm not sure if we're going to keep in our time frame. Maybe just a quick question before we close. Who do you think is the best kicker of all time? This was another question from one of my friends. And who do you think's the best kicker in the league today?
Okay. I think Boswell from the Steelers is probably, and Aubrey from the Dallas Cowboys. They're probably, and Justin Tucker from Baltimore are probably the top three right now, and they're all neck and neck. And uh, back in my day, there's well, I was pretty close until I got hurt.
Well, I mean, besides you, obviously, you're my favorite
I
kicker of
got
all
I got
time.
put that. There's Jan Stenerud from the Kansas City Chiefs. He was from Sweden, played 14, 15 years, and always steady. And uh, Tom Dempsey, Gary Yepremian, um, all these guys played on championship teams. And to play on championship teams, so your kickers and punters have to come through, to help them, especially in the playoff games and every game, to help the offense, and that's what they all did.
So it sounds
And
like people who want to become a kicker in the American football might want to spend a little time playing soccer in their youth just to hone their skills. Do you think that's a good suggestion?
I think it's an excellent suggestion because I think soccer, you got to use both feet and both sides of the body, and you're not just depending on kicking with one foot, and more you're more balanced now because playing soccer, you use your total body, and you got to use your left foot as well as your right foot, and you've got to go left, go right. So you can't really be fixed and go in one direction. And I think soccer is a gives you a lot of strength in your legs. You're always running and stopping and going, and uh, you got to be in condition and shape, and but also build your leg strength up. And plus, it gives you leg flexibility when you're kicking the football or kicking the soccer ball, and does the same thing when you're kicking the football. Flexibility is a key. It's not about weightlifting. It's about being flexible in your joint areas. The more flexibility you have in your joint areas, whether you're throwing or kicking, whatever, the more, even in a golf swing, Okay. The more flexibility you have, the more power you have.
All right. Well, you have a few words in closing to anybody who might be feeling frustrated or a little overwhelmed by life today.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, majority of the people are don't know when their next dollar is coming from, or maybe, or the food that they may not eat. I was in the same position coming out of football, um, not knowing what I was going to do after football. But I related on my education, uh, where I graduated from college on time and went back there and I coached, but I also got my master's in educational to become an educational diagnostician. It's giving tests to kids and to adults as to what kind of anxiety do they have when they're taking the test through observation in their score. And and that was really interesting and learned a lot about people. That way, there's a test out there that you can give, say, an athlete. It tells you all about his personal things about him and how to coach him. Okay, if he this is what you have to do. Okay, and so it's a great test because now you see things, you hit all of his blind spots that he doesn't even know, and it's so
Adapting your
powerful.
techniques to help him become a better person, basically.
Yes, and also to see seeing himself in the world today that he's in what state of mind and what state of anxiety, all these different areas, and how to improve on these things or how to coach him up.
All right. Well, I think we're going to explore that more in our future podcasts. And maybe we can even take a look at the test and it might help people just in regular life, especially if they're struggling to figure out who they are. So
Yes.
thank you, Roy, for coming today. I've really enjoyed our chat. I'm looking forward to our conversations in the upcoming month. You've had an interesting life, and we appreciate you being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Simone, and it's always a great pleasure talking with you and seeing you, and this was a great moment that I want to thank you.
All right, Roy, thank you. I know that my viewers are going to be really happy to see you. Now,
Okay.
I'm going to just do a little bit of a closing and then we'll sign off.
Very good. Thank
So,
you.
Roy and I are going to be chatting again about what's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers and give us some more suggestions about how to achieve our goals. I'll be posting that time and date of that interview soon. And the thing that we need to remember is we need to be disciplined and we have to be in the right state of mind, whether we're overcoming a divorce, our children leaving home, losing a job, all these different things. Discipline and a state of mind are the only way that we're going to overcome our obstacles. Because we need to remember that the world is a beautiful place. And regardless of the difficult times that many people seem to be experiencing today, and the craziness that's going on in the world. Football is something uh, that brings many of us together in a positive way. So that's why I'm doing this series of shows, not only to show examples of people who have lived the American dream, but also people who've come through obstacles and come out on top. So thank you for listening in. This is Simone signing off for today.